Have you ever had an idea that was so clear it was like a 3D movie? Have you ever told a friend about the idea and they told you, wow, if you could only make that into a business, you would be rich? Sound familiar? Welcome to Knowledge to Currency. I'm your host, Senator Porter, with my co-host, Roosevelt Williams III, and we're here to help you take action. This is free information. We only ask one thing: build a strong foundation and mindset. We have insight to help you get started. Most of us just need a push. What's up? What's up? Welcome to episode 39, Knowledge to Currency. I am Senator Porter, and you are?
Roosevelt Williams III.
And today we have Dre Evans on the show. Welcome to the show.
What's going on?
Hey, man. It's a big episode.
Big episode.
So I know that you are into real estate. You're an author. What other things do you do?
That's the biggest thing, man. Just a kid from Chicago. Went to the Naval Academy, came out here as a naval officer. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I started my real estate business, buying apartment buildings here in San Diego, and then my book business.
That's dope. How you, like most people just buy a single family, how you just go right to multifamily right off the top? Because that's, I think, in my opinion, that's the way to start.
No, I agree with you, man. I think for me, I always got to check everything back to Chicago, just that kid from Chicago mentality. You know, you can't really dream what you cannot see.
Sure.
And I was at a coffee shop, a Starbucks coffee shop at that at Bay Park, and one of my homeboys, Keegan, he bought a multifamily property in Bay Park, went to the Naval Academy as well. Oh, wow. And I'm just sitting there venting to him, laying it all down on him about until I released a book. That was the only way I really could think of to bring in that residual income to change that financial narrative for my family. Okay. And then he said the words multifamily to me, and I'm like, what is that? and that's what changed everything, man. He sat there and he explained to me, it's just another word for apartment building, Dre. And from there, he took me to a spot down the street. He showed me the actual apartment building, and that started to open up my eyes. And he took another hour, 2 hours to show me how to find properties, how to research them. And my mind was just blown. He thought he scared me away because he later on reflected on that, said, man, he thought it was overwhelming. But I was just in shock. I was in awe, and I was like, wow, like, maybe this is possible. Right. And I think for me, I was very intimidated. I was definitely gonna be real about it, but I walked away from it and it was like, okay, let me do some research on this. Let me try this out and see what happens with it. And I just started researching as much as I could. I bought all the books I could on buying multifamily real estate and just real estate in general, property management, listened to all the podcasts I could. And from there, I think I did that about 3 or 4 months. Okay. Just educated myself thoroughly. Barely went out, just dedicated myself to the game.
That's dope.
And then from there, I started hunting. And eventually, after several months, closed on a $2 million 4-unit property in PB. Okay. And then from there, I got it to cash flow, and then the business really took off from there.
How old were you at that time?
Well, I'm 30 now.
Okay. So
that was about, I always remember that property because I closed on Christmas Eve. Okay. And that was, 2021?
What? That's dope, bro.
It's powerful, ain't it?
Yeah, that's dope. Just hold on, give him a shout out.
Yeah, maybe we get flowers and flowers is due.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah, so because that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize. Because I used to do, I was a mortgage loan officer at different banks, and what happens is a lot of times someone will take all their money, put it down on a single family home, and then they're kind of stuck because they can't get enough money to put down on the next property. But if you do it the way that you did it, you start with the multifamily first. Even if they're going to live in it, let's say someone get a duplex or a fourplex, they may not even get like a big apartment complex, but just getting an actual place that has additional income, they can move out of it. Like they could be in there 6 months to a year, kind of save up some money, and then put that capital down on the next property. The next thing you know, now you're rolling. But they don't teach you to do that. They teach you to go buy that one house first, and it's your forever home, and then you're stuck. You don't have any more assets. You can't do anything. So that's dope that you started out that way.
No, I appreciate it. I think it was just, I've always been a man of faith. So I think that there was just a combination of, God's will and that blessing, and also just luck. I can't attest that story. For me, I never thought I would be doing real estate. Okay. So every time people always ask, like, how do I get started, or what made you get started? I always give them that. You know what I mean? Like I never in my wildest dreams thought I would buy more than. I always thought I'd just buy my dream home once I got a family.
Right.
And that was it. So for me, I'm still in shock.
That's smooth. You got a question?
Yeah, man, I do. I was inspired by your book here. You know what I mean? Prove them wrong here, man. Author, established author. Can you best-selling author as well? Just how do you stay inspired? Because you're part of a triplet. Am I right?
I am a triplet. That's right.
I mean, that's beautiful. So how do you stay inspired as an entrepreneur, as a go-getter? Who's some of your inspirations? How was you able to separate yourself from the pack?
My mother.
Yeah,
that is my why. Yeah, and my grandmother. She's not here with us. Rest in peace to her. But that's what got me out of the gang life. Okay. There came a lot of points where I was in trouble, but it was a very pivotal moment when I had the opportunity, that golden ticket to get out of Chicago, and shortly when I had came back from being out of the city, I traveled out of the city for the first time.
Okay.
And I came back from visiting a college campus, actually. And then there was a drive-by shooting on me and my best friends. And for me, it was like I had been in situations like that before, but I think it was something different about it, just being out of the city and feeling safe. And I remember just walking through the campus and the professors wanted to see you win.
That's dope.
And I never felt that feeling before. I never had someone look at me where I felt like there was nothing, they meant it. Right. There wasn't something they wanted back. Because, in Chicago, on the south side, it always was like, if I scratch your back, you got to scratch mine 5 times harder.
Right.
And I walked away from that like, man, I got this opportunity of a lifetime. Then the drive-by happened. I'm like, okay, this is it. I need to pivot.
Right.
And I just remember when it all went down, thinking about my brothers, but primarily thinking about my mom and my grandmother. And for me, my biggest if in life has always just been like looking back on regret. Like, I don't want to be on my deathbed, just having been surrounded by so much death and so much negativity as a kid in Chicago. And it's always so negative, you know what I mean? It puts the city in a bad light. But obviously there's great things that come out of Chicago. Right. There's great things that come out of many underserved communities. And I just wanted to, instead of saying, woe is me and I hope I make it to 21, it was almost like, well, what if I do? Right. And trying to really tap into becoming something better. And I took that risk. I confronted the gang leader and then the rest of the gang, and I was like, yo, I want out. And I did what I had to do to get out. And, I went to the Naval Academy, and I didn't look back. And so for me, I had always had a knack for writing. It was a gift. My mom was a author. She wrote a Christian marriage book, actually, but she never marketed or did anything with it. But growing up in high school, everybody was like, man, you write pretty well. And my instructors that was the one thing they always said to me, even though I wasn't always the best student. I always held on to that. And that's so cool. After I came, when people at the Naval Academy found out about my story, I was going to the schools. I was doing outreach. I was going every weekend. I was in Newark. I was in Philly. I was in Chicago multiple times, Detroit, Atlanta, you name it. And I remember I always loved it. I loved giving back to the kids. And everybody was like, you should write a book. You should write a book. And then I had a fatal car crash almost, and I remember I was in the car, the cabin was all smoking up, and someone had to pull me out. And the next day I was like, I'm gonna write. And so I wrote every day, finished the book in a year, started working with the same publisher that produced Lioncrist Publishing, David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Yeah. So I worked with them. That took another year or two to get the book where it needed to be, and it became a Wall Street Journal bestseller, Amazon bestseller, Barnes & Noble bestseller, international bestseller.
Man, big salute.
Yeah, that's dope, bro. So then, and this is the first book, right?
This is, I'm 3 books in at this point.
3 books. That's your 3rd book. What are the other 2 books?
The first book is on called That's My Property, which is the name of my business.
Nice.
And
That's My Property?
That's My Property. And I was just trying to, again, pass the torch, I never feel that. I had a call with somebody today, a young lady who wanted to get into more in real estate, and she was like, what can I do for you, Dre? And I'm like, nothing. Right. Because the same way Keegan helped me out, the same way my mother and my grandmother were praying for me to get out of Chicago, there's so many people just like y'all, right? Right. Like, we're all here and we're going to help each other out the best way we can. And so I remember, like, no, I'll do what I can to help you out. Only thing I require you is just keep in touch.
Right.
And
Powerful.
it was similar to when I got in the real estate. When we started the podcast, I told you all about Ike and how we started the podcast. And I had my own meetup, and I was doing deals, and everyone was asking me all these questions. I'm like, well, how do I leverage my gift as an author to give back to people? And then that's how the book was birthed. I literally wrote it in a few months, and it was like, how do I give something, a guide to people from A to Z on how to buy and understand multifamily properties. It's in the chapters I laid out where each chapter could stand on its own.
That's nice.
So like one chapter could be if Roosevelt wants to say what's 20 ways I could fund a real estate deal, he can go to that chapter. If he wants to know terminology and examples of multifamily analysis, he can go to that chapter. And then if he wants key terminology from A to Z, that's in the back of the book. So I released that first, then Prove Them Wrong came second. And the third one was, again, kind of God knocking on that doorstep. I woke up one day, he was like, you got to write this, you got to make a comic book.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what you mean? And he was like, you got to produce a comic book, a real estate comic book, the first ever. And so that was the last one that was released in January. So it's the Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Okay.
but in comic book form of how to buy a large apartment complex. So it's like Marvel DC style. The comic is, the visuals are just as detailed.
Powerful.
That's cool.
And
Powerful.
it literally teaches people. So the Upriser is the main superhero.
Okay.
And Professor Brainwave is kind of like Professor X and X-Men. He guides him along his journey like a mentor. In any business that you do, there's always a mentor. Kobe had a mentor. MJ had a mentor. So Professor Brainwave acts as that for the Upriser, he's a college student.
Okay.
And Enterprise City is where it takes place. And he has other superheroes that he meets along the way, and they form. It's called the League of Wealth.
Nice.
And then Capital Skull is the main villain, and then he has little minion villains that he faces along the way, and they all represent the challenges that you would encounter buying an apartment complex and even managing it.
Powerful.
And each
That's
time he
cool.
defeats them, he gets a golden key that shows him the lesson.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. Yeah, because we do work in the school systems, and I can already see how that can attract. It could be it's familiar and it's fun.
That's why.
But
yeah.
you're still sprinkling vitamins and lessons and gems.
That's exactly why. Because you go into the schools, and I get it. I remember I was there. How do you reach these kids? Where, especially with social media, they're attracted to the money and the cars and everything. And that's where I started to see the pivot, at least for me. Compared to when I was doing the motivational speaking, I used to have a lot of days where I was down because you would want to touch all the kids and hope that what you said to them would reach all of them. Mm-hmm. But obviously you can't. And I would take it personal because I would go in there trying to give them my all. And then I came to a point like, well, man, maybe with the real estate, I have a better ability to now combine this with speaking.
Right.
Because kids are going to respect a sexy property. And you could even have events at the property,
Right.
if it's really nice, and so that you can, if they're attracted to the shiny things, maybe you can leverage that, and then with a comic book, maybe you can leverage that to try to reach them in a different way.
Right.
Yeah, what I admire about it is some people might be visual,
Right.
learners, and then to hear you, it's powerful. I'll actually be speaking at a school tomorrow. And that's what we do. So I'm already thinking of ways, to connect you to these individuals. 'Cause like you said, some individuals may learn differently. Yeah. Audio, visual. They may want to touch it. They may want to touch and see it. So, that's impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. Plus, you're reaching them at a younger age so that they can see you as an investor, as a real estate holder, and they may have not even know anyone or see anyone like that. And then that will say, I want to be that as well.
And what you said earlier, you said if you see it, you could dream it.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
right.
sir. So that's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So then, as far as you got this particular property, then are you looking to get more properties, and how do you go about researching where to get them and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I've built my community around buying properties in San Diego at this point.
Okay.
That's definitely been my niche, being very well connected here. And so I'm continuing to push that needle and buy more properties here.
Okay. So San Diego's home now.
Chicago is always going to be fine, man.
You were trying to get him there.
He's trying to get me. They gonna be listening back home and be like, oh yeah,
Which dude, White Sox has me like,
I'm just doing this right now, just for the city, man.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Big love, big love.
Nah, but would you ever go invest in Chicago though?
I would.
Yeah, because I would imagine like some of them properties got to be some really good deals.
I would. We actually had a cat on the show a couple weeks ago who was one of the few that was buying apartment buildings in San Diego, and I was telling Ike, man, that made me think, I'm like, man, I'll have to go back home and scoop up some.
Right?
That would be cool.
Right? Yeah, because isn't like where the area where Obama used to live there, like,
Hyde Park?
Yeah, gentrifying that area too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw some property, and then I have a friend, she's an attorney out there, and I was like, man, we should invest. She's like, nope, I ain't investing in anything over there. I'm like, are you serious? Like, it's cheap. But she was not having it.
Yeah. I think it's harder when you
live there.
That's still on the south side, and you're right, that area is changing. Hyde Park is a more nicer, affluent area of the south side, but the south side gets such a bad rep.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And with the taxes and the way they do stuff in Chicago, I think that's another reason why a lot of people don't choose to invest there. But I could see. I think it's a good question. I could see myself, at some point, pulling the trigger to buy there.
Where are some other places that you would look at, other than obviously San Diego?
I don't think anywhere else. I think that you should. I know people have a lot of controversial opinions about me buying in San Diego because they say it's expensive.
Sure. And
that you can't cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
But I prefer to stick to my guns. You know what I mean? If you analyze a market and you have the connection base, I think that you're able to make it work. And I understand that I cannot stand on top of a building and beat my chest and say I have 100 units or 30 units. Definitely friends and colleagues that invest in other markets like Ohio or that nature. They're cheaper and they can buy more, but this is where I started, and right. So I'm gonna choose to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, they're building all these high rises, so how are they able to do it? Someone's investing money here, so why not you?
Yeah,
I agree with that. You got a question?
No, man, it's just amazing. So before time is over, we still got some time. But what's next? What's the vision? Where do you plan on taking the empire that you're building from? Books, a property, coaching, speaking. Where, how is the legacy looking?
Ooh, that's always been a tough question for me. I get that a lot actually, but the reason why it's tough for me is because I've always lived my life kind of one chapter at a time. I've always been the believer of wherever I'm at, I just try to max it out and milk it as much as I can, and whatever opportunities and doors God opens, whether that be through people or just whatever comes my way, I just walk through that door, but I give it my all. Even the things that I might not think that not the best for me or I might not be interested in, I still pursue them. And I feel like if I do that and I stay optimistic, then He will show me the way. I've always been amazed by people that can say, okay, I know where I'm going to go years down the line. I've had quite a few people in business that have that ability to do that, but I think that, I don't know, I've never been able to do that, and I think that keeps the stress off and that keeps me things in perspective. But I mean, I do have goals. I do have dreams. I would love to continue to produce more books. I'm working on some children's books for minorities, actually, to teach them, particularly about entrepreneurship. So a series of books for minority characters for children, again, that teach them how to run different businesses. So so three of them are already written, and so I'm ramping that down the line. We've got the guided journal and workbook for Prove Them Wrong. I'm 99% done with that, so that'll release next month. And then we've got another real estate book coming out soon too. We'd love to do some more speaking.
Okay.
So I've always done a lot of that, so I would love to continue to ramp that up and get on the road and travel, and hopefully build that and consulting as well.
Definitely, yeah, man. We got to connect because we in the school, in the school systems, in the school districts, and working with early emerging entrepreneurs. Always, and I like to use individuals like yourself as positive examples. Would you be able to share to our listeners what is an obstacle that you had to face and how you overcame it?
I would think just my environment, being able to challenge my environment, challenge my circumstances. As I mentioned before, growing up for me, it was common to say, I hope I make it to 21, and you see so much violence and poverty around you. It's having that what if I could do this or if I could do that, to do more, being able to take that risk. If I die trying, I die trying.
Right.
I also say the other biggest challenge for me was just going to the Naval Academy. You go to this elite Ivy League school and you're an anomaly, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't look like you. It's extremely challenging, extremely rigorous. You major in engineering, and then there's that challenge. And I'd always got D's and F's in math, and so how do I overcome that? And I would say for me, I was in front of those teachers office hours every day. I harassed them. They got tired of me, but I did what I had to do to get that B average.
Right.
To make it through engineering. And so I would really say for people that go through stress and people that go through adversity and go through tough challenges, I would say just don't give up. I got the quote tatted on me, at some point there is no excuse. Either you'll do everything it takes to make it happen or you don't. And so I would really say just, it's going to be tough, you know what I mean? Like, let's be real. You're going to have a lot of tough days in life. I get it, y'all. I definitely get it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But accept it. For me, I like to put on my motivational music, put on your gospel, go have a workout, do whatever you got to do, take a walk, to have a drink, talk to a best friend, whatever you got to do. But after that point, just
Get back
take
to
it
work.
day by day.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Like in business, you have to be able to get juice from a chip. You got to be able to really, make it happen because
get juice from a chip.
Oh yeah, man, we got a lot more, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, but that
got
really
for
is.
days, bro.
Yeah, I'm about to use that. Get
Yes,
juice
sir.
from a chip.
But you really have to be able to optimize every opportunity.
Yeah.
You really have to treat every opportunity like it might be the last time. Really, and really in business, maximize every single day. So I could really appreciate that. Harnessing your energy, just being focused on the task at hand. So yeah, a lot of individuals may get overwhelmed thinking about, I have to overcommit myself, but really need to focus on what's in front of you. So yeah, I could definitely appreciate that. Definitely inspired.
And make the main thing the main thing. I mean, when you're on this path or this journey, sometimes it is best to be away from other people. For me, I really like to protect my I don't like negativity. Like, I don't like negative talk. I'm not gonna sit and talk trash about people, because I feel like you said, when you give back, some people are like, I got to give these people money, or I feel it's a privilege to give. Like, to me, I'm in a position where I can help somebody, and I like that. Some people say that's kind of selfish in a way, because you're not doing it for you because it makes you feel good. But I just remember when I didn't have, and now I can help. So I don't have any problem giving. But other people give wanting something. So, like you said, it was cool to meet people that just want to help, and that's it. Hey, I just want to see you do well, and we need more of that, especially now.
Yeah, man. Like, are you mentoring anyone? Like, do you have any mentees? Or
I always say I have a lot in real estate and out that I've met in my time just in being at the Naval Academy and even in real estate. There's constant people that are reaching out, and you just, you're doing whatever you can to connect them or pour into them. And so I don't have a number. I don't have a count, to be honest. You just give back in whatever way you can. There are a few that are more, consistent that you regularly seeing for sure. But in general, I would say there's a good amount that you're constantly doing what you can to help out and give back to.
You got a success story of somebody you poured into that actually was able to have success that you?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll share this. And I had one of my professors at the Naval Academy text me this today. He was grading these portfolios for these kids
Nice.
in college, and he said he sent me the screenshot today, and the kid wrote about me, and I told him I was honored and I was grateful, and it's crazy that you're asking me this question because he writes, he said, "We never walk through life alone. We spend that time working with and meeting people. A big part in finding your way in life is finding something to look up to. During this chapter of my life, I found myself looking up to Dre Evans. In my last section of this portfolio, I write about a mentor that I have never met, but his writing was so substantial it spoke to me. I saw many similarities in what he said about his past and my own. I was able to see myself through his own writing. Before reading his narrative, there were many times where I questioned if a person like me belongs at the Naval Academy. His stories made me believe in myself and allowed me to push forward with the route that my life is currently taking."
That's dope.
So it's, like I said, just you don't get those all the time, but
Yeah.
I was extremely grateful to get that. And it's
Right.
crazy how you always get those, because today was, you talk about those tough days. It was a tough week, and today was one of those tough days. You got deals coming down, and it's not always gonna be easy.
Right.
And literally, I got that text, and I was like, dang,
It makes it definitely
that was an uplift.
easier to stand up when you're
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, but that's
go ahead.
100%. Especially when it's like gray days. You know what I mean? It's a present that's over us.
Yeah.
So even the fact that you acknowledge that and you aware of that, that's impressive, because you're able to recognize certain limitations and certain opportunities and how to really take charge. I actually got a text today as well, just so I could be able to feel that.
Yeah.
And it was a gentleman that said, "Man, thank you for talking to me when I was homeless." And it was on Facebook, and I got it. It wasn't in my direct message. It was in my other little account, and I seen it, and I responded, "Brother, I'm glad that you're in good spirits and everything." And then he told me what he's looking for, and what's your email address? Because we live to give.
Right.
God blesses us to bless others. So I'm just inspired. That you're inspiring. You know what I mean? And that's why you're here. We're all on a mission. And for all the listeners, you got to link up with this. Go get this gentleman's book right here, man. Dre Evans, award-winning author. Please share some of your handles and how we can find your book and how we can follow you and how we can learn more about your story.
Yeah, so I'm at Dr. Multifamily on all social media platforms. So it says Doctor and then the words Multifamily. If you just type in Dre Evans in Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatnot, it'll come right up. Prove Them Wrong is the Wall Street Journal international best-selling book. The League of Wealth will be there. That's My Property will be there. But if they just Google that, it'll come right up.
Please say it one more time. So powerful, please.
Yeah, at Dr. Multifamily on all social media platforms, or if you just type in Dre Evans in Amazon or Barnes & Noble, it'll come right up. Or ProveThemWrongTheBook.com.
Right. And now, let's kind of break down, if you were to want to invest in a multifamily, what's the first step?
The first step I would say is education.
Okay.
I think that there's nothing, I get it. You're excited, you want to get into it, but you got to know what you're doing. You have to know the math and a little bit. And if math is not your strong suit, that's okay. There's ways around that. But the biggest thing, you do need to know the terminology. And I think that there's a language for business, and there's a language for real estate, and for really any niche or any field that you want to go into. And you have to learn that lingo. Even when you go into a networking space and you have people telling you what cap rate is and equity multiple and IRR, and if you don't know what
Rent
that
rolls.
is, you're gonna rent rolls and loss to lease and concessions. If you don't know what those terms are, the person that's gonna look at you is gonna be like, yeah, this is not it.
Right.
And sometimes you really only have one chance to make a first impression.
That's a fact.
And make those connections. And so if I always say, because a lot of people that are trying to get started will ask that same question, and I always tell them, I say it to this, I'm like, listen, I want you to succeed. So look at it this way, right? If you did the background research and you got the terminology down pat, your questions now are going to be more pointed. Even if you go to a person that is more seasoned, they'll respect that because you met them halfway.
Okay.
And you can ask even more pointed and detailed questions. But imagine not doing that, and you go to a meetup and you meet that person that's still up here and you're trying to connect, you're asking them basic questions that they know is basic, and they know that like you didn't even just pick up a book to read to get that knowledge or whatever else it may be. So it makes the world a difference, and so it just helps them out. And so that's why I would say just get the education, and from there go hunting.
You're powerful. I like in business we say people move at the speed of their understanding. That's why some individuals are are stagnant. Like you said, you got to educate yourself. That's the first step. What would be like the second step?
I would say from there you go hunting.
Oh, you go hunting.
Once you get the knowledge, because don't get that analysis paralysis.
Right.
Educate yourself for about, I would say, 3 to 4 months, and then from there start doing research. Find out the niche that you want to do in real estate. So you also got to look at your talents. Some people are good at Excel and math, so you might be good as an underwriter, meaning you're good at analyzing deals and properties. Some people might have a construction background, so maybe you might do the construction side of the house of real estate and being a contractor, which you can work with so many people in the real estate game if you do that. Or you might find yourself being good at property management. Some of the ladies I've noticed that also might be good with interior design, and I literally know women that make great money, and they work with multifamily operators, short-term rental operators, single family, the whole game, flippers, and they're doing interior design for them. So find your niche. Some people can flip. Some people could do multifamily. Some people can raise capital, because everyone does not have that natural ability to do sales and connect with people. So whatever your strengths and your skills are, think about that. Put that down on a sheet of paper. Then look at what you want to accomplish. Look at your goals. Look at your financial goals, and then that'll better pivot you in terms of what specifically to do in real estate. And then once you identify that, you pursue it at all costs. So at that point, like if you're going to flip or if you're going to do multifamily, the only thing you should be reading is stuff on that particular thing in real estate, and networking with people that do that particular thing, finding mentors that do that particular thing, going to real estate meetup groups that do that particular thing, go and join mastermind groups that do that particular thing, because that is what you need to niche out. Because if you cast your net too wide and you're speaking to people that flip, and you're speaking to people that do self-storage, and you're speaking to people that do interior design and property management, you're going to be all over the place. You're not going to be able to really get deals done. And then once you get that first deal, it's the law of the first deal. You'll get the lessons you learn from the first deal, that'll catapult you. The equity, the cash flow, that'll catapult you. So you'll eventually get there because you got the education. You learn your lessons from the first deal, and it'll be a snowball effect. You do the second deal, and then you'll take what you learned from the first deal plus the cash and the equity plus the cash and equity from the second deal, and now you get the third, and it just goes on and on and on.
So you just watch and repeat that over and over again.
Beautiful.
So want me to do the next one?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
What are some of your favorite resources for learning more about real estate at the moment?
I would say recently I've been really digging into Earn Your Leisure. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I like them too.
They're really blowing up, and I'm very appreciative for them. It'll be great to meet them one day. And I'm going to just speak that to existence. I'm a big affirmation person.
Right.
And so I've been tuning into them a lot. I think they bring on a lot of great people that share perspective on real estate as well as just business. I tune into that a lot, even business-minded concepts that I can apply to real estate. I listen to a lot of bigger podcasts starting out, but not as much anymore because, again, I've niched out. It's a wide net.
Right.
Unless they have an episode that really they're speaking to multifamily, I really don't tune into it.
Right.
So now I find I am strictly plugged into all the podcasts and all the YouTube channels that only talk about commercial real estate or multifamily real estate.
That's smart. That's smart.
That's that laser focus, you know.
We want to try to have Earn Your Leisure at BizCon next year.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That'd be dope, right?
That'd be crazy.
Oh yeah. Next year, BizCon is gonna be around innovation and technology. You know, we'll be bringing in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
But, we'll get there.
Like I was explaining to him, like he went to some stuff in Miami. I was like, why don't we do that stuff here? Like they have all in Atlanta and Miami, but they don't have that in San Diego, and we know all the people to do it. So we get the convention center, we actually get it even bigger. But this be the third BizCon, so that's one of our things we speaking into existence as well.
The first one was virtual. The one we shared, that was our first in person, and we're already working with the San Diego Convention Center for 2024 BizCon. Definitely, and we want to invite you, have you as a speaker, be able to showcase your presence, because it is
definitely be a good speaker.
Oh, Miss Brother, here's a lighthouse right here. You know what I mean? Literally lighthouse. Guiding other ships, protecting property. So there's no damaged goods on the rocks. So we gonna just appreciate you, brother.
I told you, E40, baby.
Oh, here we go, man. Here we go. Oh, man, follow me for it. Okay, I got some names for you too, man.
I take any name
Blessings.
you got. I love it. I love it. I don't mind.
That's
I'm
right.
telling you, you got the game, the vernacular out this world.
That's right. Appreciate you. I also deal with in like the low moderate income community.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about I would say like redlining and banks not really giving loans to minorities, or what's your perspective on that, or does that affect you, or you bypass that, or what's some of your thoughts on that?
I don't want to. That's tough. The reason why is because it's unfortunate, right?
Right.
But that's it.
Right.
I'm gonna acknowledge it.
Right.
And then it's like, what's next? Because you gotta look at it this way, right? For even people from like Earn Your Leisure and yourselves and other people that have, let me look at Obama.
Right.
So many people that have overcome the odds and overcome obstacles. Okay, you acknowledge it. It sucks.
Right.
I get it. But at some point, it's like, okay, well, again, I could take two mindsets with this. I can either say, okay, well, I can either stay in this feeling like the system is against me and it's not fair and I got to work 20 times harder, or I can be like, okay, I acknowledge this. I'm going to use this pain and this adversity as fuel, and I got to move forward. I got to put on for my family. I got to put on for my city, and hell, do it for yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A big salute, and you're 100% right, and that's a positive mindset to be able to have. It's 100% solution based. So like what type of solutions? I'm thankful that you'll be able to share those, but to keep people encouraged, like you said, we acknowledge it, but how do we
how do you
exceed
get past it?
expectations?
So,
Yes, sir.
so if I was in that situation, right, I would reach out for help. So, like, let's say a person is struggling to get funding, they're struggling with financing, they're struggling with banking. In my opinion, there are many resources out there to do that. The first thing I would go to the banks.
Right.
Each bank has a relationship manager. Go to the relationship manager and speak to them about, okay, I want to open up this checking account, and then tell me what I need to get approved for this and this and this, and then they'll give you the guidelines. The relationship manager in particular is the one you want to reach out to, because they kind of like, they got the sauce. They got the secret sauce to get things approved. And so sometimes it might be you get the automated response where you get rejected for stuff, but they have a way of basically being the gatekeeper to push things through, even if the system might automatically deny you. And they'll also tell you what you need to do. The other thing I would do is going to professional networks, meeting people, making your concerns known. Closed mouths don't get fed, right? So if you're telling people, hey, I'm having trouble with this, and so at some point I believe that you'll meet someone that can say, okay, I can help you out, and you speak to them, and get the help that you need to help get your stuff together, whether it be with the financing or whatever else maybe, or the loan, depending on your unique circumstance. But that if I put myself in that position, and I had to take like legit actionable steps, that's what I would do to get myself out of that situation, and to figure out a way, if I was struggling with an approval, or if I was struggling with funding, or if my credit was messed up, or if my finances were messed up, that is what I would do to fix it. If that, or you want me to be more, is that good?
Oh, that's bullseye.
I could add to it too, because that's kind of my world when I did finance. So the FCRA, there's all type of consumer protection laws to protect people from redlining. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, things still happen to people at different institutions, but sometimes the person that's doing a loan for you doesn't even know that they're doing something to you. They just thinking they're doing their job properly, but they're not. So if you reach out to the lender or go on like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, they put the guidelines online.
They do.
But a lot of people don't read that stuff. They don't. It looks like a whole different language to them. So if you read the guidelines, you can say, okay, I fit this I guess, profile to get this financing, and that's how you can fight against redlining. But you have to read like all the ins and outs of the loan, all the documentation. Don't just sign something without reading it. A lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you go like to the gym, when they have you sign something, you should really read through that. A lot of people don't. That would be something I would say to do. And then if you find that somebody did actually, I guess, do you wrong financially, you can go after them just by putting a complaint with the CFPB.
Right. And if I may share, I was a part of a team that passed a responsible banking ordinance that held banks accountable for predatory lending.
Yep.
So before on each bank, just like a restaurant grade that they have in the window,
Yep.
each bank has a grade on how they do with reinvesting in low moderate income communities and redlining.
Mm-hmm.
So before you even go to that bank, if you're looking to get a loan, you could be able to look them up and see their grade.
That's
and
good too.
if they're predatory lending, yes, the responsible banking ordinance that was passed here by the San Diego City Council unanimously. So just food for thought.
No, that's all good, because like sometimes they'll go to, you're thinking that banker is the expert or that loan officer is the expert, and they could be new to the industry. They could
That's a strong point, because
You know what I mean?
we deal with that in real estate too.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first got started, I went through that. And just because you get no doesn't mean you accept that no and just
Right.
It is what it is. Like, go have 2, 3, 4 other loan officers look at your file, because you'll be amazed at how an advanced and seasoned loan officer can get you an approval and give you a different perspective on your file compared to someone that's beginner. And so I love that you brought up. The other thing that you said was the CFPB. I think people don't realize how powerful that is, because they, banks and credit unions, and they're required to act when you file that complaint.
Mm-hmm.
And that's free. You can literally create an account and go in there and sign up and submit a complaint. And within 24 hours. Now, I don't know the specific timelines. That's not my expertise.
But
I know,
they'll
I'm
respond.
pretty sure that within 24 hours, I know there's a specific amount of time, but at least within 24 hours, they have to respond back.
They have to respond within 30 days.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so they have to respond. So if you, like, it could be as simple as, I applied for this loan, I signed everything electronically, and I was never handed the paperwork. So then all of a sudden you start looking through the paperwork, and there was things in there that you didn't know about. So they'll be like, well, you signed. But no, they're not. They're supposed to read that stuff to you, hand it to you in your hand, even if you e-sign. If they don't do that, they're violating your rights as a consumer. So if they don't give it to you in writing, that's why when you buy a house, they have to give the disclosures out within the first 3 days. It has to be out in writing. Even though you're cool with it, they have to either FedEx it to you or something, so that you got a paper copy and an online copy. So just little stuff like that people don't know.
And what you don't know may hurt you. That's why this is knowledge of currency.
Yeah, well, we're over our 30 minutes, but man, Mr. Evans, thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it.
I'm so glad
Yes,
we
sir.
ran into each other. You got anything you want to say?
Man, I want to thank you, man. A huge honor. I'm just honored to be, in your presence, and I'm just excited what you're gonna do for the future and how many
Likewise.
individuals you're gonna impact and inspire.
Yeah,
Likewise,
let's
appreciate
just
y'all.
keep building this up. But that's a wrap. Episode 39, Knowledge to Currency.